So, I was sharing some things with my mom. We drove down to see my grandfather in Tennessee. It's about an 8-hour drive for us from northwestern Indiana. So, um, my parents are still evangelical believers, Pentecostal, and my grandfather definitely believes in God, and he watches some pretty is it Arnold Murray, the Shepherd's Chapel? So I got to, my grandfather has cancer and he's um, on hospice right now. And, I'm definitely just going to peacefully let him watch his shows and listen along and talk to him about it. That's the place that I'm at with that. I also got a very unhealthy dose of Fox News, but it was just wonderful to be with my grandpa uh, for the couple days that we got to be there. However, there was, a lot of conversation and a lot of long driving where me and my mom were just together. We haven't always had the best relationship. And I know she hasn't really talked to me about me leaving faith. She just always tells me that she'll pray for me, or she's super, super cautious if she does say something about God. She's always like, oh, praise God, thank the Lord, and all that kind of stuff. So because she's always saying those things, she'll apologize to me a lot. Like, oh, I know that you don't believe that way, but, and I said, you don't have to apologize for your beliefs. And I know that about you. So I wouldn't expect you to like shift your faith conversation to something that isn't you. However, those things that she says sometimes, even though I mean, they give me an opportunity to share my heart too. Um, whenever someone shares their testimony of God, or, some extension of their faith, I often feel, like an ignition in my own heart to share, well, to share how I also feel. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm not good at all at editing yet. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I need to pause sometimes if background noise is distracting me. I'll get right to it though. Back to what I was saying. Anyways, there were some opportunities because my mom did keep apologizing. I had to keep telling her, like, don't apologize. I mean, I'll tell you what I believe and don't believe, but you don't have to apologize. And so there were I didn't ever want to talk about any of it in front of grandpa though, because like, you know, I'm not trying to start any fights, and B, this is bringing him peace right now. You know, he's at the end of his life. There is no reason for me to. I told my mom, I was like, my deconstruction took 7 years. Like, I'm not trying to, confuse anybody or give them, put them in a state of like fear and feeling lost and without like a spiritual home. I'm not trying to screw anybody up like that. I know how devastatingly difficult that journey is and was, and how so many parts of it are still being walked out for me. So but I shared so much in the few days that my mom and I were together. um if if she would notice that I was upset about something or whatever, I would point to, what things were traumatic for me as a kid, and how I see things differently now. It's very important for me to live my truth. Truth has always been extremely important to me anyway. So to have opportunities where I get to share my heart, where I'm not just looked at as some like heathen tarot reader who is just like lost in this like darkness, who like does drugs and parties and stuff, like for my mother to actually see me as a happy, confident, deeply loving, compassionate person still matters. It means a lot to me. I don't want my parents to be bound with this fear that I'm going to hell. And I know I can't change that like right now, but I would love to remove that fear for them. So we did talk about hell a few times, because we talked about like, you know, existence and how we got here. She's like, you can't possibly believe in the Big Bang. And uh I had some ideas about why I think like to believe that a God can just exist, but to not be able to believe that energy could have already just existed to me, or like it's kind of like the same thing. Like something can exist, but if God didn't need to be created, then why did energy need to be created or whatever? I don't know. It just, to me, it's like the same question. So I can believe that I'm not going to be able to understand, how everything actually really started, and that's okay. Just like she can believe that God is the reason for it. And, that's okay. I don't deny that God could possibly be the reason. Anyways, I am rambling here. Get into evolution and stuff. And things are they're not really getting heated, but I can tell she really does want to know what I have to say, but also she's looking for her opportunities to minister to me, which is naturally what she's going to do. Not mad about it. Not even a little bit. And I know that the points that I have and the things that I have studied and understood coming from the exact same faith, they're strong. So I've never wanted to be a stumbling block. But when it comes to the fear of hell, that's the thing where I'm like, I don't believe in Jesus, man. Go ahead. Take it all the way. But if I could just relieve you from the traumatic, anxiety-inducing fear of hell, that would be like my number one goal. That I feel like for me, it was the beginning of my deconstruction. Questioning the Bible after removing the existence of hell really got the ball rolling for me, because now I was just believing in God because it made my life better. And that was just a beautiful thing, right? So I was cool with that. But not being bound to it anymore because hell doesn't exist really did like free me from a lot of bullshit. And that was like it. That was that did a big thing for me. So the whole reason I was even making this video was this very specific point. My mom brought up the rapture because Arnold Murray was talking about, I don't know if it was like the 7 seals or something like that, but she was really like being intrigued by some of the things he was saying. And I wasn't, but, I was letting her talk through and sharing the knowledge that I once had of scriptures and how I know that we believe or did believe, and why that wouldn't make sense for like her doctrine. Because I can still have those conversations. I mean, I lived that for 28 years. I get it. I taught it. It was everything to me. So we get to talking about the rapture, and I like start singing the song, which I've mentioned before. The trauma of watching, because we're talking pre-trib, trib, mid-trib, post-trib, and like all of the different possibilities. And then I talk about how like maybe the rapture isn't even a thing anyways, and I mean, I'm just throwing questions and really like I'm running in a little bit of a circle here. So my mom is, questioning and wanting to study more Revelation, she said, and stuff. And I said, I really struggled with Revelation because there were different interpretations of when the rapture was going to come and not come and all that stuff. And I just believed I was just going to serve God no matter what. And I really didn't need to worry about it. I spent so much of my youth worried about when the rapture was going to come or not come. I spent my whole fucking life thinking about when my life was actually going to end and I'd go to heaven. I thought I'd be a martyr. That was like a really huge, heavy thing on my heart from the time I was young. Anyways, I started singing the song because I just remember the haunting song from the Left Behind movies, A Thief in the Night, like the 70s ones, or maybe even 60s. I don't know, 60s, 70s. But the specific scripture that Arnold Murray brought up, Mary, whatever the fuck his last name is, was about two men walking up a hill and one disappears. And he says, like, in the rapture, the one that disappears is actually like the one being taken by Satan or something. So she was kind of confused but wanted to talk about it. And I just started singing the song because it's like in my head. Two men walking up a hill, one disappears and one's left standing still. I wish we'd all been ready. Man and wife asleep in bed. She hears a noise and turns her head. He's gone. I wish we'd all been ready. There's no time to change your mind. The sun has come and you've been left behind. So as a kid, that song like just haunted me all the time. I mean, you come in the house and you don't see anybody and you run to every room in the house until you find somebody else to make sure that the rapture didn't happen. Because there were also teachings like some people would be left behind. There was like 1,000 or so many men were going to be left behind to like gather the rest of the people. And I was always so scared that I was going to be left behind for that, but also like trying to build myself up for the challenge. And then also learning that it was going to actually only be men though and not women. And then being a little pissed off about that. I was always kind of a little pissed off about the sexism in the Bible. That would piss me off. But, I share with my mom that I had a lot of, trauma from watching those movies. And I don't think that she should have had us watch those movies. And she goes, yeah, I guess those were, hard for kids. And I was like, Mom, I used to cry myself to sleep every night trying to confess all of my sins so that I wouldn't go to hell. So that I wouldn't like forget something. So that something bad wouldn't happen in my mind before I even fell asleep that I didn't get to ask for forgiveness for. Like, I mean, this shit was intense. And I really start talking about the fear of hell and how I really came to terms with I'm not going to hell and I wasn't afraid of the rapture anymore. Like none of that stuff scared me. I really like felt secure in my faith. Probably by the time I was 13, I was very, very set in my faith and had no fear of hell personally. I didn't do shit wrong. Like if I knew it was wrong in the Bible, I didn't do it. And if I did it, I confessed immediately. I mean, we're talking if I told somebody a white lie, which I can count on my hand the amount of times I lied to my dad. And I can count the amount of times I confessed within 5 minutes. Sometimes within a second. So like I straight up just didn't do deceitful bad things ever. I just really did not. If I did something wrong, it was like out of stupidity or ignorance or not knowing. I like to think a lot of that is just because I was a decent human being, but I mean, I didn't want to hurt other people. However, I also just thought like if I had a bad thought, that was enough to send me to hell. So I just remember like practicing like my thoughts, like controlling them and, bringing your thoughts captive and all of those things and always trying to be thinking about the Lord and focusing on him and continuously in prayer, never ceasing to pray. And like the whole day, everything about the day was about communication with God. Anyways, and talk about fear, the hell of fear. And I'm like, if you guys stop believing in hell, like, you'd really let go of a lot of fear. And then she's like, but that's our punishment. Like, that's the reality. And I was like, I just don't believe that. I think that a God that sends his own children to hell is like extremely barbaric. Like, it's real fucked up. I don't get it. And I'm talking like that to her, even though normally I wouldn't have. I don't know. I guess I just kind of felt like I wanted to speak a little freer because I have always been cautious and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I also want to ask the hard questions and point out the things that are really fucking weird. And I point out some things about the Old Testament. This was the point that I've been trying to get to this whole time, though. Ding, ding, ding. Summer hasn't got to her point because there's a million other cool little points along the way. When I told her that I wasn't actually afraid of hell anymore, but I still had a really strong fear of hell, she didn't understand. And that confused me a little bit. But I said, like, my fear of hell was for the world. I said I was such a faithful believer because I thought, like, I would. If I knew that me burning in hell for all of eternity could have saved the rest of the world, I would have done it. I hated the thought of other people being hurt, and all because they didn't know the truth. So I lived as perfect of a life as I possibly could so that I could show them the way. It was so important to me to bring truth and light and to help people. And I said, I know it's scary when people leave faith because, they could go to hell. And that probably is like all consuming. And she actually really didn't think a lot about that. And I think I was like surprised because I felt like that's what like ruined my like relationships and trying to be connected to people was just like this constant fear that they were going to hell all the time and being afraid for them. I said, you don't like picture people at the grocery store that they say a cuss word or you can see that they're not like godly people. You don't just like picture them in flames. She was like, never. And I was like, that was my whole life. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah. Like, don't you think that it's crazy that like more people that God created are going to go to hell than go to heaven? Like, only a select few get to go to heaven. And there's like nothing you can do about it. Like, you can't change God's mind on it. You can't actually like make them believe. And she just really felt like, well, that's their decision. That sucks for them. But, I like, that's the way God intended it. So, and I just felt like just sad. I don't know how else to explain it. But like, I lived my whole life to try to bring people to salvation so they wouldn't burn in hell. And like other Christians don't even like care that the whole world is burning. Being relieved of the fear of hell was the most awesome thing that happened to me in this journey. When I let go of that, I could look at people as people again. Because then it didn't matter. Like, I guess I thought like, maybe some people are going to go to heaven, but then maybe some people just aren't going to go to heaven. They'll cease to exist. And to me, that was so much more like, okay, I can have like all eternity and live forever if I love God. But if I don't love God, I just won't exist anymore. And I can handle that. And I can handle that would happen to other people if they just died, their soul died, but their life on earth was all that they had. I can handle that. Eternal torment and torture and burning forever, that's the thing that like would make me just feel awful. I couldn't handle the thought of other people dying. I just worry about everybody. I'm always worried about the people that I love. And I genuinely love people. Like, the way I feel about people is I love people and I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And I think like other Christians don't really even think that much about it. I don't know if I just have an evangelist's heart, but I just want to love people. And picturing them all burning in hell was an extremely traumatic part of my life. And it never ended. Like cousins, family members, people that I knew weren't living for the Lord. I constantly brought their names before God in prayer, just begging Him to give me like the key for them that they needed. The amount of time and energy I spent on hoping other people would come to know Him, that I was literally living my life so that other people could see how good He was. And now I have a completely different message. I don't know. I don't know why I was so saddened by like my mom not, I guess, thinking it was like so horrible that everybody is going to hell. Like, are some Christians just callous to that? Because I never became callous to it, ever. It was always so real to me. And for like finding out that hell really likely wasn't real actually made it like, oh God, now I feel like I could almost worship God even more freely. Initially, that's how I felt, because it was like, this was the one thing that I really like couldn't reconcile very much, but I tried not to like focus on. And now it's definitely the thing where I'm just like, that part of the whole story is really fucking fucked up. This control of hell is just ridiculous. Anyways, just wanted to share that I'm at my 22-minute mark. And the video was much longer than I planned on it being. I don't know. It's hard to to bring like light to this if like my mom doesn't, she's not even disturbed by it. I don't know how you are not disturbed by the whole world going to hell, but I think it's pretty screwed up, especially like with evangelical Christianity, because like you could just do like 2 things wrong and now you're going back to hell. Like, so, you know, it's not like ever a solid thing. It's always like a don't fuck up. It's like all these people you think you saved can just really screw up their lives at the last minute, and they're not even going to heaven anyways. Like, nobody's going to heaven, really. There's like 10 of them that are living well. I don't know. All right. Good night. Don't have any idea what I'm going to title this damn thing. I'll think of something.